It's a good analogy. I mean, okay, we'll move on from that. Let's talk briefly about Carl, because it is his hometown, and because he's not in the room, John couldn't really dish up too much because he was with him. So what goes on tour stays on tour, doesn't matter anymore. As long as it's broadcastable, you can tell us. Any bad stories? Come on, you must have.
Any bad... Well...
Or good stories.
Good story. One of my fondest memories. So when we were doing all the stuff on the deck, when everybody was there, really, it was Scott. I mean, everybody. We had this corner of the sound stage, which was like whatever 12 seats, and we all had our own little compartments with our food and wrappers and beef jerky and computers and whatever the hell was over there. And we had one day where. Whatever. Long story short, there's not a bad picture that Carl Urban has ever taken, and I say this with envy. The man does not. He is like.
He's a photogenic gentleman.
Yeah, I have a man crush on Carl. What can I tell you? You don't have to take it.
I have a man crush on Eric Bana.
I have a couple man crushes. Just keep that on the down low. I had a lot of fun with Carl.
He's a great guy. Really, really funny. Really generous. Really, really great in this movie. Like so.
I think people will be really surprised.
Good, because again, it's a really fine line that we all had to walk, really. But he did it with such a aplomb. I was so impressed when I saw it, and such a great time working with him. It was pretty funny on the plane coming from Sydney last night. Someone was in his seat. Someone was sitting in his seat, and he was like, "Okay." So then he just sat in another seat, and then somebody came. And there was somebody. What happened?
I don't know. It was really funny when it happened.
Not so funny in the telling.
No,
Thanks,
I tried.
though.
No, I tried.
You did.
Sorry.
You gave it a good go.
Sorry. There was a seat mishap on the plane that was hysterical.
I think it has to do with the zeitgeist, a plum.
They're two very good words you've rolled out, actually, in the last 20 minutes. I'm impressed.
I am too.
I do what I can.
Now, a little bit about the film and J.J. Abrams taking the helm of this and going forward. Obviously, the possibility, I think, that the sequel's going to start to happen and maybe even a third one. So much... well, the weight of the world on your shoulders when you reboot a franchise like this, it must be kind of intense. Did you get a feeling of that excitement when you first started shooting?
Yeah, it was really exciting. I mean, I think, I can't think of anyone better to lead this franchise in a new direction than JJ. I mean, it makes so much sense. And that was a big draw for both Chris and I to become involved. And, I think he's arguably one of the most imaginative people working in Hollywood today, and his skill and execution is sort of unparalleled. So it's just great, and somebody said in Sydney yesterday, a journalist brought up something that Gene Roddenberry had said before he passed, which was that he had hoped someone would pick it up again and take it and carry it further than he was able to carry it. And that was really moving to me. I didn't know that he had said that, and it's to be a part of that and to be a part of it with JJ is it's an incredible honor for sure.
I think what the feeling that I got, and I talked about it with the guys beforehand, and they gave me grief for this, was that sometimes Trekkies can be seen as kind of geeky, and I feel like this movie is gonna make being a Trekkie very cool.
I hope so, and I think that was JJ's JJ's intention. Clearly, was to invite more people into the fold, basically, and I think. For the non-fans, maybe there was, you have the people behind it. You have JJ, and you have Bob and Alex, and you have Damon Lindelof, and you have a really nice balance between the non-fan, the self-professed non-fan JJ, and then someone like Damon Lindelof and Bob Orsi, who are huge fans, who are you couldn't ask for greater protectors of Trek canon. So you had a really nice balance between the fresh perspective and paying homage to paying tribute to fandom.
We talked a bit about that with Carl as well. He's had a bit of experience with the Lord of the Rings, kind of that really passionate fan. Have you guys encountered any of it quite yet, or is it early days?
It's early days I've been on this show, Heroes, for a couple of years now, which has its own passionate fan base, but I think this is another level, and and to be honest with you, like, I've been to a couple of conventions. I did a couple of conventions in the States with Leonard, and it was great to have that experience with him by my side, obviously. But I find, I don't know, I keep waiting for like the really weird experience or the really sort of unsettling people but everybody's so cool and actually excited and enthusiastic, and there's obviously some eccentricity in in that group, but it's not offensive and it's not intrusive yet. So I hope it remains that way. And if it does, then I'm cool. Like, you know, I don't mind engaging them or hanging out. Do you?
Well, the first experience that I had with really any of that frenzy was when we got on the airplane to go to Sydney, and we get to the airport, and there's, you know, all these paparazzi, and it was frenzied. It was just crazy, and so that was nuts. That was a weird experience. But then in that kind of chaos, there were these 4 or 5 fans that wanted to get some signatures or whatever, and as the paparazzi made their way to something hopefully more important, the Trekkies were left behind, and they were sweet and kind, and I mean, just very nice and very again, like Zach, I haven't had any experience with, you know, anything other than, you know, really sweet people.
Other than good.
Other than good, exactly.
That's a very good start.
Yeah.
I think I read a quote from JJ saying that he said when he met you that you were born to play Spock.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
he said that about you.
It never once crossed my mind until I got an email from a friend of mine that was a link to some sort of Star Trek chat board or someplace that I would never have found my way otherwise. And it announced that they were going to make this new movie and had a list of potential actors to play these roles, and I was on the list, and I was like, wow. And then it sort of began, you know. So it was a very organic evolution. I will say that, you know. I don't know, you know, the people I'm sure have different points of view on fate or sort of that predestiny kind of idea, but you know. I certainly sported the Spock haircut when I was from the time I was 11.
Who didn't sport the Spock haircut?
No, you don't know, dude. You do
No,
not.
I had the same haircut.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the full-on mom put the bowl on the head and the whole thing. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I
looked really cute.
Mine carried into my early high school years.
Right, a little bit
When
too
you were
far, maybe?
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 14.
That's awful.
It was horrifying.
It's really awful.
So, you know, maybe I was. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But I'm certainly glad that I am. I was saying before, I never would have imagined science fiction to factor so prominently into my career. But, you know, it has, and I'm glad it has, and it makes sense. There's something very theatrical about science fiction. It's a very heightened reality. I think there's actually numerous parallels between the sort of canon and the mythology of Star Trek and the canon of Shakespeare, really. You know, these heightened stakes and heightened worlds and characters that weave in and out of different stories, and you know, I think it's a really cool thing to be a part of. So I'm not complaining.
Oh, I can see
Certainly.
that. Now, don't punch me, but this is how I kind of saw...
I wasn't
probably
planning on
not.
punching you. Welcome to New Zealand.
This just took a turn.
It wasn't a good start,
After
was it?
Christmas. God.
Sucker
No,
punch.
we can hug or cuddle, but I'm not going to...
I might go for that then. I saw your Captain Kirk as a little bit James Dean. There was a little moment where you were Maverick from Top Gun.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a little bit of Luke Skywalker.
Well,
Were you happy with that?
Maverick, thank you. That's very flattering. Yeah, I mean, as a kid growing up, I wanted to be a fighter pilot like Maverick. Any day, wear the leather jacket and ride the motorcycle. That was
I wanted to
huge.
be Don Johnson from Miami Vice.
That socks and your
So I used to wear
shoes.
blazers with
the shoulder pads.
shoulder pads and no t-shirt.
And lots
No
of
shirt
pistol.
under, and keep a gun in the belt of
And
my
you
pants.
just kept on calling your best friend Tibbs or Tubbs or whatever. Hey, Tubbs! Just really embarrassing. But let's talk about me just for a second.
Sorry.
But the scene in particular that I felt that when I had to ride the motorcycle and I'm looking all stoically up at the thing, was so nerve-wracking because we had 20 minutes to shoot the shot and the sun is setting and it's a beautiful, they call it magic hour, and cinematographers love it. It's like their wet dream, and so I keep on falling on the motorcycle and it takes me, I'm going past the camera, I'm like going into the camera, and it could not have been any less, you know, cool than that, but
It looks cool.
yeah, I know, thank God, you know, the magic of filmmaking, it ended up looking cool, but it was a lot of fun. It was like it was all the dreams of, you know, that I carried since I was a kid to play the Top Gun pilot, so it was fun.
Sweet.